Have you ever been to a great New York style deli where they bring you a basket of warm rolls before your meal? Well, I don't know about you, but my favorite are the onion poppy rolls. And now you can make them yourself at home and you will be transported in your mind to your favorite New York style deli. Sally that girl in the kitchen. Hi everyone, and welcome to another episode of Sally that girl in the kitchen. In today's episode, I'm going to teach you how to make New York deli style onion poppy rolls. Yes, those delicious onion and poppy filled rolls that you'll eat at your favorite deli. Well, we're going to learn how to make those today, and you're going to be surprised how easy they come together. They're super delicious. They are beyond good, and they will remind you of those delicious rolls that you would eat at your favorite deli. Super, super good, warm with a little bit of butter. Wow. I'm already savoring them. I cannot wait to teach you how to make these. So let's not wait another second and let's get started. For today's recipe, you will need 5 1/4 cups of bread flour, 1 teaspoon of salt, 4 teaspoons of sugar plus 1 more teaspoon separate, 1 3/4 cups of water, 2 1/4 teaspoons of active dry yeast, 2 tablespoons of vegetable oil plus another 1/2 teaspoon separate, 2 large eggs plus 1 more egg for an egg wash, some dried chopped onions, the dehydrated ones that come in a bottle, and some poppy seeds. You will also need some oven mitts and either a bench scraper or a knife, some measuring spoons, some dry measuring cups, either a handheld roller or a rolling pin, and you'll need either a dough whisk or a large fork such as a serving fork. You'll also need a wet measuring cup, a large bowl with either a lid, or of course you can use a dough cover or plastic wrap instead. You're going to need a couple of large baking sheets and a couple of cooling racks, 2 small bowls and 2 forks, a pastry brush, and you'll need some parchment paper and some plastic wrap. I have most of these tools, or if not very similar ones, in my Sally That Girl in the Kitchen Amazon store. So if you're in need of any of these tools, be sure to check my store out. So now that we have all of our ingredients and tools together, let's get started. The first thing you're going to want to do is add 5 1/4 cups of bread flour to a large bowl, and then you're going to use the back of your dry measuring cup to create a well in the center. Then on the outer part of that mound of flour, you're going to add 4 teaspoons of sugar, and then you're also going to add 1 teaspoon of salt. Then you're going to set this bowl aside for a second, and you're going to measure out 1 3/4 cups of water, and you're going to pop this into the microwave for about 50 seconds to a minute, depending on your microwave. You want it lukewarm, not super hot. Then you're going to bring over 2 1/4 teaspoons of active dry yeast, and you're going to pour that into that warm water. Then measure out 1 teaspoon of sugar, and you're going to add that right into this mixture, because what we want to do is help feed that yeast, because we want to activate that yeast. And you're going to notice that the yeast is going to become nice and bubbly, and that is going to give our bread our beautiful rise. So all I do is I use a fork and just break up any clumps that form just very gently, and then I'm going to let it sit for 5 minutes. Then after 5 minutes, you're going to notice some foam at the top. That means your mixture is ready to go. So you're going to grab your bowl, and right in the center of that well, you're going to pour in this yeast mixture. And we're keeping the yeast away from the excess sugar and salt at first, so as not to kill our yeast. And then right on top of that, I'm going to be adding my 2 tablespoons of vegetable oil. Then I'm going to crack open 2 large eggs, because I'm going to be beating these to add also into the center well. And of course, I got a little bit of shell in there, but that's okay. I'm just going to use the shell to shell method. Shell attracts shell, and I'm just going to remove that little piece. And then I'm just going to beat the eggs well, and I'm going to also add those into the bowl. Then you're just going to grab your dough whisk or your large fork, depending on which one you're using, and you're just going to use it to incorporate the ingredients. I like this dough whisk because it does help scrape the sides of the bowl as you go, but a large fork, such as a serving fork, is just as effective. So then you're just going to clean off your tool, and then you're going to switch to your hands when you notice that your dough has become shaggy. And then I'm just using the dough itself and the moisture in the dough to pick up any remnants that I have in the bowl. It's just going to pick up all of that flour because we have plenty of moisture in the dough, and then I'm using the dough to just clean off the bowl. Now at this point, you're going to switch to your counter because you're going to knead for 10 minutes. So what I like to do is just make sure my counter is nice and clean. And then I like to connect with my dough. I like to knead by hand, but of course you could very well use a mixer. That's totally fine. And I have a beautiful mixer, but I just love making dough by hand. So with a mixer, it would take you 5 minutes as opposed to 10 minutes. But look at how beautiful my dough has completely transformed with 10 minutes, and my hands are completely clean. If you notice as you're kneading that your dough stays sticky, then you can sprinkle a touch of flour on it, but not until you've kneaded for at least 3 or 4 minutes, because you'll be surprised. The moisture just completely gets absorbed and the texture starts to change, so don't over add flour. So once you've kneaded for 10 minutes, your dough ball is beautiful, and what you're going to do is you're going to put it in your bowl. Notice my hands, they're completely clean. And then I'm going to add a half a teaspoon of oil, just a very little touch of oil to this ball, because I just don't want my dough ball to dry out as it rises. So a very little touch of oil is all you'll need. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to cover this because I'm going to let it rise for a full hour. So you can use a lid or some plastic wrap, a dough cover, and put it in a draft-free spot and set a 60-minute timer. And of course, if you're using one of your ovens, then set out a reminder so no one turns that oven on. And then while it's rising, I like to go ahead and prepare my baking sheets. What I did was cover them with parchment, and that way an hour passes, I open up my bowl, and my dough is looking so beautiful. And then I'm just gonna come in and punch it down. Look at all that air that has formed as my dough is rising. So I wanna definitely release all that air and wanna punch it down really well. This is my favorite part. So then you're just going to tip your bowl over, and then using your hands, you're just going to gently remove the dough from the bowl. So notice it only took an hour to make this beautiful dough transform and rise in a draft-free spot. So now I'm going to separate my dough first into 2 parts because I want to separate my dough to make my rolls. So what I like to do is the part that I'm not using, I like to separate, and I like to protect it with some plastic wrap, because that way as I'm making my beautiful onion poppy rolls, the rest of the dough is not drying out. So as you work, whatever you're not using, make sure to keep nicely covered in plastic. So 1/2 of the dough then gets split into 2. And then from each of these halves, I'm going to be making 5 rolls. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and cover one portion because I'm going to make 5 rolls from this side first. So then I like to shape it kind of in a log, and then I mark about 5 pieces roughly, and then I separate my dough into 5 pieces for these first 5 rolls. It doesn't have to be perfect, and if you notice one is a little bigger than the other, then just add a little dough to it and you're good. And then grab one of those pieces, and I'm going to be using my handheld roller, but as I said, you can also use your rolling pin, whatever you prefer, and then I'm just going to flatten this out. And then what I'm looking to do is sprinkle it with the onion and poppy. So I just want to make sure I'm creating a big enough surface area to give it a nice little sprinkle of onion poppy. And then I'm going to be using these dried onions. So shaking it can be kind of slow. You see, not much comes out. So what I like to do is I open up my bottle and I use a teaspoon and I just spread some of this onion out. So it's important to note at this point, you want a thin layer of onion because the moisture in the dough itself as the rolls bake are going to rehydrate and soften these onions. So if you pile the onions too high on top of each other, they will not rehydrate properly. So you want a thin layer of onions. And then you want to come in with the poppy seeds. And I'm just very careful because these guys will run all over the place if you're not careful, and give them a nice sprinkle of poppy. And then what I like to do is just kind of fold the dough over from the top and bottom and then just kind of roll it over onto itself. And I made almost like a little spiral, but when it bakes up, it's just going to look like a beautiful little roll. And I place that right onto my parchment because my tray is already prepared. And then I'm just going to repeat this process over and over. So as I said, with this first section, I'm going to make 5 rolls. And then again, with the other half of that dough, another 5. And we're going to end up with a total of 20 rolls from this dough. And remember, you want to layer your onions thin, not too heavy, so they hydrate nicely. Then you're going to fold your dough over from the top, over from the bottom, and then just from one side over onto itself into like a little coil. And then seam side down, they go right onto the parchment. So I should have mentioned earlier, if you notice that your counter is a little sticky or your dough is sticking to it, you can definitely flour it just a touch to help the dough release itself, but don't over flour because if not, you're going to notice that the dough will just pull back onto itself and it won't lie flat. So a very light sprinkle or none at all, depending on your countertop, on what you need, is really all you need. You don't want to overdo it with the sprinkle of flour as you work. And then fold, and then just fold onto itself. And then once again, right onto your tray that's prepared with parchment. And then you're going to continue working with the rest of your dough. This piece will make 5, the other one 10 more. And as I said, you're going to end up with a total of 20. But what I like to do is make my first 10, and then I just fill that first tray with my 10 beautiful onion poppy rolls. And that way, as that first tray of 10 is getting its second rise, I can continue working on my second tray of 10, and the timing just works out perfectly. So here we go. We have our first 10 ready, and I'm going to cover those because what I'm going to do is I'm going to set a 30-minute timer to allow these to continue to rise. And then during those 30 minutes, I'll work on my second 10, and that way this first batch will be ready to go into the oven while the second batch is rising. It just works out perfectly. So then I crack an egg into a small bowl and I beat it well. And then I'm actually going to add just a little touch of water to this to make an egg wash. You can do it with or without the water, but for these rolls, I like just a little touch of water into my egg. And then you're just going to uncover your first batch. Remember, it's been sitting for 30 minutes and now they're looking beautiful. They've puffed up ever so slightly and they're just looking absolutely gorgeous, and they're filled with that delicious onion and poppy. And then you're just going to give them all a really good egg wash. Remember the sides, you want to get that egg wash all over. And then we're going to set this aside for our second tray. And then we're going to come over. This time I leave the lid on because I don't want a ton of onion, because the texture of the onion that's on top will be different. This one will not rehydrate. It's going to get toasty and golden. And then of course I come in with my poppy seeds and I just use the tapping method to ever so slightly add my poppy, because if you shake your bottle, a lot of poppy seeds will come rolling out. So just very gently gently tap the side of your bottle, and then you make a little bit of a coating with poppy, and then this first tray is ready. We're gonna pop it in the oven on a center rack. First set a 15-minute timer, then turn your tray around and set another 10-minute timer for a 25-minute total baking time. And then when that tray is almost ready to come out, it's just the right amount of time to let these guys rise. So now these are ready. So the other tray is soon going to be ready. So I just grabbed my egg wash one more time, gave it a little beat with my fork, and then I'm just coming right back into the second tray, giving it a nice coating of egg wash, my onion sprinkle, my poppy sprinkle, and now my first tray is ready, and I've pulled them out and they smell incredible. You see how beautiful they are? They're just absolutely gorgeous. And then of course, they're going to be absolutely delicious, filled with that yummy onion poppy. So the second tray is going in, and again 15 minutes for starters, and then while that second tray is baking, I'm going to come back to my first tray, and I've set out my cooling racks very carefully because they're still very hot. Right on the tray, I use my oven mitts and just separate the rolls that have kissed each other as they baked. And then when you're able to transfer them over onto the cooling rack, be careful not to burn yourself. Put them on the rack to allow them to begin cooling, and they are smelling incredible. So now it's been 15 minutes. I'm turning this tray around. I'm giving it another 10 minutes to allow them to finish baking, and then here they are, deliciously golden, beautiful with that onion poppy, crispy on the outside and moistened on the inside. This is just such a delicious roll. So just as before, I'm going to carefully separate them. I'm using my mitts to not burn myself because they're hot, hot, hot. And then I'm going to remove them from the hot tray, put them onto a cooling rack, and my kitchen is smelling incredible. Everyone is going to be flocking over. So once they've cooled, then you can place them onto a serving tray because you don't want them sweating. So make sure you give them a little time to cool down before transferring them to a serving tray. But then they're gorgeous. You can serve this at any time, a brunch, a dinner, any time. They are so absolutely beautiful with that gorgeous golden color and that crispy onion poppy on the top. And then they're fluffy and delicious and filled with onion poppy on the inside. Look at that yummy, yummy onion. And we put the right amount of onion, so the onion has rehydrated and it's just got such an incredible flavor. I just cannot wait to bite into this. Yum, yum, yum. So then you can grab a little bit of butter or put whatever you love on these guys, cream cheese, jam, whatever you like on your rolls. And then I'm just going to try this out. Oh my goodness, it looks so crazy good. I can't wait. It's perfect. It is so delicious. It's transporting me to my favorite New York deli. So crazy good. Yum, yum, yum. This looks divine and tastes even better. They're absolutely beautiful and so delicious. So good. Fluffy, oniony, so flavorful. What a yummy, yummy roll this is. It's so crazy good. Look at just how fluffy they are and how they just spring back. And then they're filled with onion poppy. How can you go wrong? If you are a fan of deli style onion poppy rolls, you're going to love these. And you saw how easy they were to make. Yummy, yummy. Of course, I'm going to have another bite because I'm going to finish this guy. It's so good. It's crazy delicious. I absolutely love that onion poppy filling running throughout. It's just so flavorful, so delicious, and just the perfect texture. Look at that yummy, yummy bread. It really is just so, so delicious. You really can't go wrong with these rolls. So, did I deliver or what? Tell me these don't look amazing. And you saw how easy they were to put together. It's really no effort at all. It's just making that beautiful dough. And when you bake them, those onions rehydrate and they just turn out absolutely perfect. Can you tell I'm a big fan of these rolls? They're so good. They fly around here when I make them, and they're really just amazing by themselves. You can eat them warm, room temperature with butter. You can make little sandwiches out of them. They are so tasty. The possibilities are endless. Trust me. No, better yet, don't trust me. You're gonna have to try this recipe yourself. And of course, if you've enjoyed today's recipe, don't forget to like it, to write a sweet comment, to share it with your friends. Thank you so much for doing that. I really appreciate it. And of course, thank you to you guys that are here week after week watching my videos. I really, really appreciate you watching them. So thank you so much for that. And if you're not already following me on social media, you can go over to Sally That Girl in the Kitchen on Facebook, Instagram, and on Pinterest, or you can find me as Sally That Girl FL on Twitter, Snapchat, and on TikTok. And of course, here on YouTube, be sure that you're subscribed to my channel and that you touch the little notification bell so that you get notified every time I put up a new recipe, which those of you who watch know that I do all of the time. Go over to my video tab or to my playlists tab, and you can explore there. There are so many recipes up, hundreds of recipes there for you, and you're gonna love them all. There's something for everyone, so be sure to check those out. Anyway, thank you again for watching, and I'll see you next time. Sally That Girl in the Kitchen.